Hi, this is Aaron with Andertons TV. I'm here with Antoine from Arturia, and we're here with the first MatrixBrute in the country. It's the first look at the synth, and we're going to give you a quick overview of it and a few sound demos as well. It's worth mentioning from the start, this is the prototype. It's the first in the UK. And yeah, let's start from the very top. So yeah, a bit about the synth first of all from Antoine. Thanks very much.
Hi everybody. So introducing the MatrixBrute, indeed. Very powerful upcoming mono synth that we are releasing end of the summer. It's already on pre-order, and let's have a look at the layout of the synthesizer itself. So it's a 3 oscillator synthesizer with 2 oscillators that are coming from the Brute family. Those are exponential oscillators with multiple waveforms that you can mix inside the oscillator. So you have 2 of these, which in total represent 8 waveforms, and a 3rd oscillator, which is a linear oscillator, more of a classic design, with 4 waveforms, which you can pick one from. So in total you have 9 waveforms that you can mix together to create your sound generation. And you can top that with a noise generator with 4 different types of noise and an external input which can be sent to your signal path, be it a line or instrument. All of this is then processed into a filter stage. This filter stage is a dual filter, so you have a Steiner partial filter, which is very similar to the one found in the Mini and MicroBrutes. And you also have a ladder filter, which is a very classic analog filter design, which you can find on many synthesizers, many famous synthesizers out there. So that's for your audio chain, which is after being processed by modulators, envelopes and LFOs, and a matrix that we'll come back to in a minute, is then routed to analog effects. And I'll stop on that for a little while, because analog effects for me is
it's a big deal. You don't normally get analog effects on a synthesizer at this price point. I mean, even other competitors above this price point, synths released over the last sort of 2-3 years, you don't get analog effects on them. Synths well into the sort of above £2,000 price point, you don't get analog effects, you get digital effects. So that's a big deal. But,
yeah, digital effects are usually the ones that you bypass straight away when you're just firing up the unit.
Yeah, so you just completely ignore them.
So yeah, that analog effects section is quite interesting indeed. The unit comes built in with an arpeggiator and a sequencer, step sequencer that goes up to 64 steps sequences. And you have many performance controls that are at your fingertips and that are totally customizable. So very easy to route your mod wheel to different presets, or to use these knobs right there, white knobs next to your keyboard, and assign them to any parameter of the synthesizer. And you finally have an FM section that allows you to create very complex sound by using frequency modulation in between oscillators and filters.
Another great thing about this as well is obviously with most mono synthesizers you're not getting a really large key bed on this. You've got a great 49 key keyboard on here, complete with aftertouch, which you would expect at this price point. And the build quality of this unit, obviously you can't see this or feel this through the camera, but the build quality on this unit is really superb, and the whole thing is made of really great quality wood, and it's really high quality metal, the whole unit as well. It feels extremely solid. So yeah, if build quality is really second to none on this unit. It's extremely good. The layout is extremely intuitive. I mean, today's the first day that I've seen this synthesizer, and I've just come out to it, and straight away you know exactly what you're doing with it. The only thing that can seem a little bit daunting is the matrix section of the synth. We'll come to in a second, but once you actually have a look at it and you see the controls, the way that they're laid out on the actual unit itself, it's actually really straightforward. Everything is laid out extremely intuitively for you. Right down to the sequencer. I mean, the actual step sequencer, the way that this thing is laid out, really straightforward. It's actually an incredible breakaway from the step sequencer you get on most mono synths at this price point. It's really easy to use.
Just finishing on the on the hardware part of the unit, if you like, you have a tiny built-in screen there, which is e-ink screen. It's not an actual screen display. This is part of the philosophy of the unit, because this unit was built, well, this project was built around the idea to create a very powerful analog synthesizer without any menu diving functionalities. So we tried to make it and laid it out so that it could really achieve a lot without any complexity. That is for the screen part. Another thing that I need to stress about the philosophy of the unit, of this MatrixBrute, is that it has that extra range that is very typical of the other mini and micro brutes. That means that we actually decided to leave an extra range available on all of the parameters, so that you can really like tweak the sound the extra mile and make sounds that are bigger and more aggressive. So this is part of the character of this family. Now, if you want to achieve very lush and round sounds, this is possible as well. All you just need to do is dial in values that are not all the way up to the top of the possible range. Because this is what we believe users needed, is more range, really.
One last thing we'll cover before we go into some of the more in-depth pieces of this is some of the back panel features of the actual synthesizer itself. We do have 12 CV gate outputs on the actual synthesizer, just on the back panel here. So for any of the Eurorack fans out there, this is completely syncable with all of your Eurorack here as well. So this will hook straight up with that. USB interfacing is completely syncable with this. So there is a librarian editor that will be dispatched with this on launch. So this does have a onboard preset memory of 256 memory locations, but that is expandable, obviously, with the librarian that will ship on dispatch. So you can obviously expand that via a PC. It does have MIDI I/O on there, as you would expect. And there are inputs for expression and sustain pedals, as you would also expect. Stereo inputs for audio, and yeah, everything as you would expect.
And one thing that is overlooked on the rear panel of the MatrixBrute is actually the insert. So it has an insert that is, if you have a TRS insert jack, you will be able to route the audio signal of the MatrixBrute in all of your effects pedals. So that's great for people who carry a bit of effects with them. They can route them and interconnect them, interchange them without having to unplug the master out. It's very handy if you want to try out different combinations.
Yeah. So I think next step we'll have a look at up here is obviously just probably start left to right and work our way through some of the more in-depth features. So shall we look at the VCOs and work our way through from there?
Yeah. So the VCOs, let's just start with a fresh patch. So nothing happening here. I'll just let you listen to the various waveforms. So this is VCO 1. We have a sawtooth, and each waveform comes with its dedicated parameter. So sawtooth comes with an ultra saw parameter. We have a pulse with a pulse width parameter. And we have a triangle which comes with a metalizer. It's crazy, very acid metalizer.
It's a feature you get on the other brutes as well. It's a feature common of the brute family. The metalizer is quite popular with them.
Handy feature is the key hold, so you can operate hands-free. And so I can show you the last waveform, which is the sub oscillator, that you can combine and have it either in a sine or a mix of pulse. Groovy. Okay, so that's the oscillator 1. Oscillator 2 is very similar, so I'm just blending it in. So right here we have 2 triangles. We could add a pulse or another sub. And we have oscillator 3, which is the linear oscillator, with a choice of 4 different waveforms. So that is for the oscillators. I'll just focus quickly on the noise. So the noise comes in 4 different flavors. So we have a white noise, a pink noise, the red noise, and a blue noise. Those are based on different filtrations of different noise sources. So each one has its own character, and it's very handy to combine it without using a filtering.
Yeah, it's quite nice to have that just straight there on the box. Obviously, typically on most synths, you'd only get sort of the standard white and pink noises on there. So to have the access to the red and the blue noises just on there on the box, it gives you extra options sonically. Yeah, it's an extra feature to have on the box. It's quite nice.
All right. So moving on to the filter section now, and we'll be listening to the 2 filters and their characteristics. So first to the Steiner Parker filter, and we'll be dialing a sawtooth wave into it. So just to have a listen. So the Steiner Parker comes in with 4 different modes. So low pass, band pass, high pass, and a notch. And we'll listen to those. So the low pass. Band pass. A high pass. And finally the notch, which allows for some phasing effects. So both come, both the filters comes with 2 different slopes. So you actually have a 24 dB slope, the very smooth slope we've been listening to, and you have a quicker 12 dB slope, which is very smooth as well, very nice. And so the Steiner Parker filter is famous for as implemented in the Brute, is famous for the Brute factor, which is basically a feedback loop for the resonance, which creates very wild effects if applied with resonance and combined with resonance. So to handle with care, but very useful indeed. And we have a much smoother drive parameter, which is
far more tame.
Yeah,
it's far more tame than the Brute factor. But yeah, you can use them in conjunction with one another to get some really interesting effects. Yeah, let's move on to the second filter.
All right, so I'll just route my waveform into the other filter. So you have here in your mixer the choice of routing your waveforms into one, the other, both, or none of the filters. So I'll just route it now to the latter filter. So we are here in low pass, and I'll just remove the effects now. A 24 dB slope, low pass, very nice. band pass and a high pass. So typically the ladder filter will come with a lower level of output. So if you're using both, you'd rather turn down a little the Steiner Parker so that the levels are even, because it's part of its characteristics. Now it also comes with a brute factor, which can be pretty wild.
Pretty crazy again.
And with its own drive parameter as well.
Yeah, which again you may want to use to compensate for this being a lower level than this, but again you've got outputs on both to compensate for the levels, so you can mix between the two, and again you've got mixed parameters on here. So there's ways to compensate for the level difference between both filters being different in level, but it's your choice.
The great thing about these filters is that they can either be combined in parallel or they can be routed into one another. So the Steiner into the ladder, that's the serial mode. And so here we have a combination of low pass and high pass. And so actually creating a band pass filter in the combination of two filters, say fighting each other. And which is great, and which can help you achieve great tones as well. And customize your band pass, really. So the big knob right in the middle of the two filters is a master cutoff. This one will offset the position of both filters. So using it will allow you to if here we have a low pass fed into a band pass, into a high pass, sorry, we'll then able to offset this custom made band pass filter, which is great, very handy, and you have visual feedback of the position where you are, because having three cutoff parameters can get confusing. Can be slightly confusing, so that's why we've added the visual feedback where you are. And from there we have all the modifiers. So we have 3 envelopes and 2 LFOs. Actually 3 LFOs, because the third VCO can be used as an LFO. Yeah,
which is a really cool section. Obviously this third oscillator being its own LFO is just a really cool option on there as well, and that's can be routed by the Matrix as well, which is just a really cool option as well.
So maybe we should get going on the Matrix. Yeah. So for example, at the moment we have one oscillator only in this patch. We could use the oscillator 3, the third VCO, as a LFO to modulate the pitch of my VCO. So basically what I'm going to do is just selecting a source on the left side and picking a destination on the upper row, and here I'm selecting VCO 1 pitch, and I route it to my LFO 3, select and dial in an amount of modulation, and here I can manage my waveform and my division. So that's as quick as it gets for the VCO 3 LFO. And that's how slow it can get. So this modulation matrix is literally the possibility for you to pick any source on the synthesizer and route it to any destination, or almost any destination. We have added 4 custom destinations. So these are the ones that will be displayed on the e-ink screen. And the way it works is simply that you press the button, select whatever parameter you want to automate. So maybe the time of your delay, and you'll be able to route that to any source on available on the matrix. So here I've been assigning my delay time to my LFO1, and just checking. So yeah, your delay is being managed, delay time is being managed by an external parameter. It's very, very, very interesting. And you have many ways to use that and to custom build your own tone.
Patterns around that, yeah. It's really, really cool.
So shall we listen to a bit to the effects, maybe?
Yeah, let's move on to the effects section from there.
So our effects, so we have 5 effects which are based on bucket brigade delays. So those are analog effects, as we said. So we have a stereo delay, we have a mono delay, which can achieve longer tails. We have a chorus, we have a flanger, and we have something that is close to a reverb, but is based on bucket brigade delays. So it will create space illusions, well, space effects based on the delay. So here is a bit of the stereo delay. Very nice sounding, very, very lush. In mono, we can have a bit of a longer delay. So we also have a chorus. Quite aggressive as well. A flanger. So all of this is achieved with actually one single waveform out of the 9 that are available on the synth, and using one single filter. And finally, the reverb effect. Which gives you a bit of a space impression, and it comes in handy.
So it's just opening the synth up basically. It's not an enormous reverb if you didn't want more space on it. You could add an external reverb unit, but I would say it's much warmer sounding than what you would get from a digital reverb on another synth. The effects are definitely more usable than the built-in digital effects that you get on a lot of other units that you just tend to bypass. It's definitely a harken back to the usable effects of the analog synths that you got in the 80s and the 70s, where they were actually usable. These are usable. These are the kind of things that you are actually going to stick on there and use.
Lastly, we should take a look at the built-in sequencer, which is both an arpeggiator and a sequencer. The arpeggiator is very straightforward. It's basically it's very simple arpeggiator with all the parameters you need at your fingertips. So you have the ability to have notes, triplets, dotted notes, different time divisions, quarter, eighth, 16th or 32nd note. And you have different orders, reverse or well, up and down. You even have a random mode for bigger chords.
Yep.
And you also have then, well, a good thing, both on the sequencer and the arpeggiator is the gate parameter available on the pot,
Yeah.
which is very nice. You don't have to mess with your envelopes to have very small gates. But so that's for the arpeggiator. On the sequencer, so the sequencer puts the matrix to another use, and this use is actually displayed here on the right side. You have actually 4 blocks of 16 steps, making it a 64-step sequencer with step, accent, slide, and a mod parameter for each step. Mod being a sequence with values which is then refed into the modulation matrix as a source here on this row. So the way it operates, the sequence is very straightforward. You can dial in some rests as well. So you have your sequence running. You can have it run either in forward, reverse, in random as well. You can select the length of the sequence. So for the moment it's running on 16 steps. You could have it run on only 8. So yeah, very intuitive, very easy to use.
The layout is really good on there as well. It's very easy to see what you're doing, as opposed to some of the other sequences that you get on other mono synths. Where you've got a really small layout on the bottom left-hand corner of the synth, or you've got a really small screen where you're struggling to see what you're doing. It's a great big display, and the fact that you've got 4 of them, it's great.
Yeah, it's good fun for everyone.
And you just sit there and tweak.
So, lastly, I think the audio modulation section is very interesting as well, because it allows you to take your whole sound to a whole different level, thanks to the frequency modulation.
Yep.
So basically, what we have here is VCO1 modulating VCO2. Which, by the way, can be hard sync. You have VCO3, which can modulate either VCO2 or VCO1 here. You have VCO3, which can modulate your filter. Or you can have your noise modulate your filter or your oscillators. So this allows for a whole new range of sounds that can be achieved with this machine. It's very nice.
This is essentially where you sort of flip things on its head. You sort of reverse a lot of what's going on in the actual, sensation. Is really handy. The fact that you've also got the 3 envelopes here as well is a really handy feature. I mean, can't be overstated how flexible this actually is with regards to sculpting the sound. Really useful. This audio mod section which we just discussed is extremely flexible as well. So these 2 things, the amount of flexibility you get with regards to sculpting a sound overall, extremely useful. Yeah, it's really, really handy as well. The 3 LFOs, obviously LFO3 is hard synced to the third VCO, but LFO1 and LFO2, the fact that you've got 3 of them on board, really, really useful again. So you've got a really large range of sonic possibilities with this synth. There's a lot you can do on board with it. So yeah, it's a really, really good mono synth. So it's a mono synth for Sweet16 definitely.
Everything is synchronizable to the sequencer, so everything can be synced together, either your effects or your LFOs.
Delay is really, really warm actually.
So I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, I didn't stress the modifier here, the macro knobs that we can use to control basically. Here routed to the pitch of the all oscillators. We could have it routed to many other destinations, including custom destinations. You can have your effects control right at your fingertips. It's basically 4 more mod wheels that you have here.
Yeah, definitely performance control, but really, really handy to have. Obviously, if you don't want to sort of continue coming up to the matrix to tweak things, and you've got preferred, obviously, controls that you want to have, you've got those definitely on board. One thing I should say about preset management is obviously that I guess guessing they're handled by the matrix up here is massive dial on board for that, and they're going to be handled on here as well. But yeah, I think that covers pretty much everything we want to talk about on board.
One last thing worth mentioning about this synthesizer is it being a mono synthesizer. It can as well turn into a paraphonic synth. So it has 3 oscillators, which each of its oscillators can become a note and allow you to create chords. So with 3 notes. So you are going to be able to switch from monophonic to paraphonic mode, and also into a duo split mode, which will allow you to have either ones of your filters on different parts of your keyboards. You will be able to set up a split point and have 2 sounds on each end, 1 sound for each hand. So that's very handy. The paraphonic mode is not implemented on this unit yet, but you can basically use your 3 oscillators as a chord. The thing with our oscillators is, as we have 2 exponential oscillators and 1 linear, they could become uneven when played together. If you have 4 waveforms on the first one, 3 waveforms on the second one, and 1 single waveform on the third one, it could make an unbalanced chord in the end. So you can deal with it with the mixer section, where you can obviously tune your levels together, and definitely would make a better balanced tone to have only 1 waveform on each oscillator, so you have a better balanced chord in the end.
Yeah, obviously it's worth mentioning though that the units that will be shipping, they will have the paraphonic feature when they dispatch it. It's just this unit that doesn't have the paraphonic feature, so we can't show it today.
And I think we've got it pretty much covered. There are many other things that we could speak about. We could actually speak about this unit for the whole day.
Yeah.
But yeah, keeping it as short as we can, I think.
Yeah, I think that's the main features we want to talk about. Well, thanks very much, Anton, for coming in and speaking about the synth today. Now you've come a long way, all the way from France to speak about the synths. Thanks very much, and yeah, thanks for it.
Yeah, thanks for listening, and see you next time.
Yeah, stay tuned, guys. Thanks very much. Bye.